You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL podcast.
He's got it! Oh, baby!
Every week, Travis Currah.
That's Grey Cup me, which is a different person.
And Brazilian Ty.
Hunters are people too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Oh, nearly intercepted, and it's over!
Ready, set, hunt!
Hey, thanks for pressing play on this episode of Two and Out with Travis Currah and Brazilian Ty. I come to you as a humble rich man, as I just won the Lotto 649, $107.10, Ty.
That'll cover the podcast hosting fees.
Exactly.
You're the new bankroll, baby.
When I checked the ticket in the grocery store, man, I popped. But I was trying not to do it like so obnoxiously because it's $100. But it's the most I've ever won in the lottery. So,
but it's $100.
Yeah, when I leave the grocery store getting paid $85, I'm a happy guy.
And you come away with food.
Yeah.
I've never seen you upset with food.
No, I can't wait to dig into those tater tots after the show here. But you're at camp. Did they
first
feed
night
you
back
today?
in camp, ham and scalloped potatoes.
Oh, wow.
So in all my glory.
It's not so bad after all.
And you can ask Steve and Carrie. I called it when I was at their house yesterday. I'm like, Sunday night, really hoping for scalloped potatoes and ham. It's got to be. It has to be. It's destiny. And sure enough.
Welcome back. The welcome committee for Brazilian Ty.
Everybody asks, oh, how you doing? I'm like, I'm in my own personal hell. I hate it here.
But at least you got ham and scalloped potatoes.
Yeah, I could have got that. Well, no, because mom and dad weren't home. So yeah, at least I got fed today.
Week 5 started with a doozy, Brazilian Ty. Okay, I actually want to start here. The Saskatchewan Roughriders beating the Edmonton Elks 12-11. I got an email on this game, the Two and Out mailbag at twoandout.ca.
Oh,
George Hyde writing the email. Hey boys, what I learned from Thursday night's football game, if you're going to hand a team like the Elks their first victory of the season, it's going to take 60 minutes of error-free commitment. It's not enough to give them opportunities. You have to make sure that they capitalize on them. The Riders almost made it look easy for 57 minutes. Then, with 3 minutes left on the clock, they totally lost focus and started playing football. Suddenly, there were zeros on the clock, and the Riders players were standing around looking dumbfounded, trying to figure out how they let the L slip through their fingers. And the real dagger in the heart, late in the game with seconds left, there was still some faint hope. The Riders had almost lured the timid Elks back into field goal range, and Nick Marshall decides to try and jump a route. Appreciate the show. That's George in Peachland. I think that sums up the game pretty well, man. You're still speechless. We had 3 days to...
so bad.
But somehow I watched the game twice.
But it's a classic. No, you are a... What is wrong with you?
But it went by so fast.
Did it?
It was like this game could take 2 hours. I
guess. Yeah, that first half was over quick.
It was. Nothing really happened, really.
Yeah.
In that first half, Edmonton was actually, I will say this, it was kind of a sense of deja vu a little bit. Taylor Cornelius getting the start, and he was moving the ball with his legs, much like last year when Edmonton paid a visit to Mosaic Stadium. It's almost like they had no answers for that.
How hard is it to spy? Like, we've seen teams send 3, drop 9 against Cornelius.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a while for them to adjust, but like, drop 8, have a guy that spies him because you know that he is super mobile. And especially against the Riders, it seems to be their kryptonite is Taylor Cornelius in the last 2 years. Like it's one of those things, or just it seems like an easy fix, and maybe we're wrong, but it just seems like it's starting to feel like 2022 again.
It
Like
did.
we're winning game. They're winning games. They're not playing well in, and
Yeah.
it's not that is not good. It's not going to set you up for success later in the season. You need to start playing better now.
It was
and get those good habits back.
It was a patchwork offensive line for the Riders in this one, and it showed. Trevor Harris was under pressure for the entire game. And that being said, the teams were sort of able to move the ball. Like Edmonton had opportunities to put up points. They started with a missed field goal, a makeable kick 32 yards out. Dean Faithful misses it. It's 1-0 Edmonton. And then the Riders move the ball, go for it on 3rd and goal, and they fail. So the next score is an Edmonton punt single. By the time we get to halftime, it's 3-3.
I have defended Glenn Suter to the nth degree to people. I'm done.
What happened? What are you talking about?
When the Riders are down 1-0, they just had to go for it on 3rd down. He's like, well, if they kick the field goal, they're only up 2. And so, I mean, it's only 1 point. It's a big deal. I'm like, oh, I'd like to take the lead. And so then when they're down 3-0, he's like, well, now you kick the field goal to tie the game. I'm like, the game would have been tied anyway. Like, what are you talking about?
I'm okay with going for it. I am.
Yeah, like I get why they did it, but you're on the road.
Riders are at home.
Riders are at home. So yeah, like you go for it, but like, yeah, just kick the field. Like, why you're overthinking it? Kick the field goal. In general,
I guess I'm just more okay with aggressive football. It's like if they execute it, we're not really talking about it. But they were struggling. With keeping Harris protected and that sort of thing. So maybe when you look at it that way,
but they're not Ottawa.
Yeah.
Right. Like in their second game or third game where they went for it and everybody agreed with it because they haven't found the end zone yet.
Yeah.
Right. It's like when you start playing golf, you play from the front tees. You got to learn how to score. It's the same idea with them going for it last week or 2 weeks ago. I just don't see. I would rather have had the lead. Granted, it worked out 3-3 anyways. But I mean, it maybe changes depending on possessions and starting yards and all that stuff. Like it's butterfly effect. But yeah, Glenn Sears just rambled on about, you're not losing anything. I'm like, well, you're still down a point, and a pretty big point.
Points were hard to come by in this one, especially when both teams are wiping big plays off the board by their own doing. Stephen Dunbar Jr. did find the end zone. He burned Nick Marshall on a big gain. But would you look at that? A holding penalty wipes that play off the board for the Edmonton Elks. And then Dean Faithful.
And it wasn't chicky-tack either. It was blatant.
It was. Faithful misses another field goal. Mario Alford returns it for a touchdown. Would you look at that? That big play also wiped off the board.
Why are you taking a penalty there?
Yeah.
Behind Alford. Yeah. Alford's already gone. Like, guys, the special teamer, there's a reason some guys never get off special teams. It's because of stupid like that.
Last minute of the half, Brett Lawther, he's good from 16 yards after the big Mitchell Picknin reception to get into Elks territory. Man, Mitchell Picknin, what a game for him. Getting onto the roster here for the Rough Riders. The leading receiver in the entire game. 4 catches, 4 targets, including a big-time score at the end of the game. 79 yards for Picknin. He's
didn't drop a single pass.
And I get he's probably drawing, the third. He's the third guy that maybe even fourth guy that defenses are looking at here. But he took advantage of that. He's worked hard to get to where he was and made some big time plays at big time times.
Well, and you need those guys that have that third and fourth matchup to produce. It's the same as in the playoffs where you need your fourth liner. Like your fourth liners can't just be passengers. No passengers.
Yeah.
Right. We've seen it in every sport where the number 8 and 9 hitter in a World Series, like they've got to contribute, stuff like that. And for him to come in and do what he did, like 4-4 for 79 yards and a touchdown, leads the game, 17.9 points in fantasy.
Yeah.
Like I don't want like the word amazing. It's impressive. Like just coming his first game of the year, comes back. Seems like he's got it all figured out. Favorable matchup for sure. And I mean, that'll change. I'm sure. Like if he keeps putting these numbers up, they won't get the favorable matchups. But you know, when you need a guy, he shows up late, clutch. You know, to have 2 clutch plays there to end the game. That's a positive moving forward for the Riders. I didn't like much else in this one for them though. That's why I'm saying it's shades of last. It's scary right now.
Now, Elks are up 4-3, and Chris Jones. And
I also had the over in this game, so.
Now, Chris Jones is always standing on the sideline while his team's playing. Always. Now, it just seems, at least when I watch him in Edmonton, that the play is across the field. But in this one, the official is running with the play. He doesn't have time to look. He's watching the play, and Jones is standing on the paint right in front of him. He tried to argue that he wasn't on the paint, which was
he's such a loser. I can't even handle it.
So he takes an elbow to the head, and the ref didn't even look or hesitate. Flag in the air.
100%. Like, who do you think you are, Mike Tomlin? But then, he takes 2 giant steps back. He's like, "Oh, I'm staying right here," and he's yelling at him. It's like, well, that's still against the rules. Like you have to be a yard away from that. Like, what are we talking about? Go get another job.
Oh, well, we'll see if this continues. He might be looking.
Oh, I mean another job with the Elks, like wear another hat.
Add more duties to the already growing list of duties.
Might as well be the video coach too.
The Elks, though, actually finish a drive in the third quarter. They go up 11-3, and if you actually look at the time of possession in this game, the Elks, man, they had the ball for 37 minutes and 2 seconds. I don't know how to justify.
And got 11 points.
Not pretty football, to say the very least, but at that score, there's some extracurriculars. Teams are getting frustrated with each other. I love when a ref is about, I don't know, 5'7" and trying to hold Micah Johnson back.
It's me. Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
I'm just stepping back, and whatever happens, happens. Yeah,
let them go. They'll figure it out. They're big boys.
And then, so the Riders driving the ball again, and Trevor Harris throws a brutal interception in the end zone. So
I stood up. I'm like, well, he's 3 for 3 on this drive. This one's going to be caught. It was caught.
Yeah.
By an elk.
Double coverage and looked like underthrown, really. Like, it was just not
bad.
A pretty interception at all. So that's where Cody Fajardo fans and Trevor Harris haters use their platform to say, see, we got the wrong quarterback in the deal. I think.
Yeah, Fajardo has never thrown a pick in the end zone.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said too. Both guys probably did need a change of scenery either way. So I think it was probably a positive for both teams.
I think Fajardo's needed new training staff.
Yeah, I think so, because he's going to get sacked just as much, if not more, and maybe break his own record for taking sacks in a single season. But with 1:04 left in the game, the Rough Riders finally find the end zone. And I honestly, Ty, I don't know if I've seen Trevor Harris play like that. He was all of a sudden looked like one of the most mobile QBs in the league, because he had to be.
He had to be. Like you mentioned, patchwork offensive line.
Yeah.
He normally gets the ball out fast, but he just. Edmonton, they can play defense. They have the horses there to do that. And so I imagine like the reads Like, it's tough to get a ball out quick, especially when you don't have the likes of, a guy like Darrell Walker and
Schaefer Baker's not playing.
Keon Schaefer Baker, thank you. Right? Like, I mean, you're able to key in on guys. Moves aren't quite there. You got some young guys in there, Picton included. Like, it's tough to get that ball out quick because you don't want to throw a pick. You'd rather take the sack. And it just so happened that Picton was able to leak out on that out route, and he was wide open.
Now, it was a 10-play, 78-yard drive. And on that drive, Trevor Harris was sacked twice by AC Leonard. It's not often on a drive where you get sacked twice and still give up the touchdown or still score the touchdown. Sam Emelis had a 16-yard catch on that one. He had kind of an off and on day, a tough drop here and there. He took penalties. He had, I think, one of the best catches of the season when the Riders were backed up right to their goal line that got them some breathing room on that drive. And they end up finishing this one, you're right, to Mitch Picton. It was just a 4-yard touchdown, but they still needed that 2-point conversion. They got it. Tie game, 1:04 left, and this is when the real fun starts, Ty.
I don't blame Sims at all.
It has to be on the coaching, I think.
100%.
And I realize
100%.
he needs to know the situation.
You catch this ball no matter what, and it cannot stay in our end zone.
He needs to be told that.
And told, if you're not going to get it out, punt it. Like,
it looked like in his head he thought, if this ball's going to land inside the 10, I'm going to let it bounce.
And it's a touchback.
Yeah.
Right. It's one of the rules are not the same, and he wasn't 100% on and clear on all of them, and it falls on the coaching staff.
This is one of those things where you don't see a game end like this, I think, in September or October. But in June, July.
I was also very upset.
Why?
So hear me out. This game, you send this game to overtime. Okay? It's 11-11.
Yeah.
I needed 44 and a half. So we're at 22. Correct? My math is good on that?
If they would have gotten you to the over in overtime, I would have been blown away.
You get Riders win the toss, they like to go second.
Yeah.
Both teams get a touchdown and a 2-point convert. 16 points. Now we're at 38.
That's too much hope.
Riders go first in the second overtime. They score, go for 2, get it. +8. 46 points. Hold off the Elks on their drive. I hit the spread and the over, and everybody's happy.
Man, with the struggles these offenses had during the game, you think they would open up in overtime?
In 35 yards, you never know.
Well, yeah, I guess you do never know what happens there. Brett Lawther lays into the kickoff. It sails. Well, honestly, Sims looked like he had a chance to catch it too. He didn't really. It looked like
he's super lazy going back to get it. That ball's live.
Well, they could have recovered it for a touchdown too.
The Riders are all onside.
Yeah. There was so much that went on. Like, a Rider could have just picked up the ball and it's touchdown Riders.
Yeah. Which would have been even more hilarious, I think.
It would have been.
It would have been great.
It doesn't matter what league, that would have been a touchdown, right?
Yeah. No, because in the NFL, if it touches the end zone, it's a touchback.
Oh, okay. No matter what. Okay.
Which is dumb.
Yeah. That is kind of dumb.
Just get rid of the kickoffs. Give the team the ball to 30. Don't waste my time with commercial breaks.
Might as well. So Taylor Cornelius, he takes a pass. He hits Maurice French. They take it to the Rider 50. And then there's an incomplete pass. It is 2nd and 10, 27 seconds left. Taylor Cornelius picked off by Nick Marshall. For the second Rider game in a row, it is sealed by Brazilian Ty's favorite player, Nick Marshall.
Nick Marshall is that guy that scores a hat trick and is still -3.
Well, yeah, he got burned again in the game, but it came
Right?
back on a holding. Yeah.
Like,
Riders win. I mean, it is ugly, but I guess it counts, Ty.
they don't ask how, they just ask how many.
I am dumbfounded with what's going on in Edmonton. Like, how can you continually come up with new ways to break your fan base's heart and just shatter it into a million pieces? A loss like that is just brutal.
But hilarious. Like, you have to look at it and be like, I expect nothing less.
Kevin Brown had 15 carries for 65 yards. Shannon Brooks had 6 for 20. Taylor Cornelius, 17 to 29, 226 yards. The interception at the end. He did have, I guess, the rushing touchdown there. So that was his fantasy night. The receivers, the leading receiver, Stephen Dunbar, 3 catches on 6 targets for 49 yards. Dylan Mitchell, 3 for 20. Shannon Brooks had a 31-yard. I mean, what a rough game to watch here. And a loss, another one in the column for the Edmonton Elks to start this season.
So I'm going back to work on Saturday. Text our buddy Brandon. Well, let's watch a football game and crush some pizza. I'm in. And then we sat through that. It tested our friendship.
Man, I work on the radio, and the Edmonton fans texting in are just...
What about Marty?
I won't say what he calls the Edmonton Elks.
Well, tell me off air.
Well, it's the Edmonton excrement. And they're living up to that name.
I mean, he's not wrong. Marty likes to party, though.
He does. Trevor Harris, 19 to 29, 292 yards, a pick and a TD. Jamal Morrow, they even got away from him, 11 carries, 52 yards. Tevin Jones had 60 yards. Sam Emelis had 63 yards. And Kendall Watson getting 40 yards in this one, including the big 2-point conversion. That was a game, Ty. That was something. A game. I'm not going to... Those are the rules, man. Know the rules, or coach your players on knowing the rules about those singles.
You're getting paid the most money any coach has ever seen, I'm sure. And you're terrible at it.
Look, there can't be any crying on Edmonton losing on the singles because they had 4 singles in this one already. So,
just ridiculous.
The fact that they lost on a single, I guess, is just
poetic justice.
Yeah, I guess that's what we'll call it. Winnipeg beating the Calgary Stampeders 24-11. Our sympathies go out to Adam Bighill, who did lose his father recently, and played a great game here, making some big tackles, and that's what he does every single time he's on the field. But Calgary was giving Winnipeg some fits here early on. Anyway, Rene Paredes opens the scoring. It's 3-0 Winnipeg, and then we're starting to see a different Winnipeg Blue Bomber team taking penalties here.
Undisciplined, slow, beatable.
Yeah, I mean, the Stamps got up double digits, 10-0 early in this game, and normally it's going the other way around, but the big one there is Winnipeg taking an illegal contact penalty.
It's just one of those things, like, you're shooting yourself in the foot. They're already struggling this year. The saving grace is that it's Jake Mayer, and he hasn't shown up. I think, come September, October, they got to clean it. Well, before then, you don't want to fall too far behind. Like, yes, I know they won this game, but you don't want to start falling behind with penalties the later you get in the season. You got to fix it now. It's one of the many things they have to fix, and it's just one step at a time. But yeah, like, take that illegal contact penalty, just fresh set, and then get lucky that you come back and win, so it doesn't feel like it's that bad. You don't want to critique a win. But when you're giving away as much yards as they have been, it's just not setting you up for long-term success.
Just different than what we've become accustomed to with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and I'm sure they'll figure it out. But starting to look more and more human as it goes on. But teams, I mean, BC took advantage of it. Nobody else has really been able to take advantage of it yet against those Blue Bombers. And it's, I still, look, I'm not calling the plays. I get it. But Calgary getting away from Dedrick Mills kind of really,
It doesn't make any sense to me.
he was running mad, and the collisions that he was delivering to that defense, he met Brandon Alexander a few times. Like, that is football, man. And he had himself 14 carries, 97 yards, and the touchdown. And then as the game went on, and I know Winnipeg fought back and they took the lead, but they totally weren't giving the ball to Dedrick anymore when they
And then
had
you wonder
great
why
success.
Jake Mayer struggles.
Yeah, I can't figure that out. Like,
Like, if you're gonna commit early, when you're down like 10 nothing, it's first quarter. Like, there's still lots of time. Like, you can still commit to the run.
they were
they
up
do.
10-0.
Or they were up 10-0. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have run the ball, and then Winnipeg starts mounting a comeback. Why would if it's still working? I don't know why you would go away from it when it got you a 10-0 lead. Like, it just makes no sense.
Well, the Stamps had 10 points in the first quarter, 1 point the rest of the way, with the Bombers outscoring them 24-1 after the Stamps got up to that 10-0 lead. So what do the Stampeders do here? They have a very inexperienced receiving core right now. Luther Hakanavanu ended up missing this game. Rice and John making his first start. All they really had was Reggie Bagleton. Mark and Michelle back in there, back in the CFL, making his return for the first time in about 5 years. They were looking his way a lot, but those Bombers defenders were priding themselves on shutting him down, and they were all over him. And they were still throwing his way. It just appears like this might be a bit of a long season in Calgary, and that feels weird to say.
Well, right now, I think a few teams are in for a long season. Like, you look at it, there's 4 starters right now.
Yep.
And a lot of it is quarterback play. Mayer is struggling. He threw for 122 yards.
Yep.
And an interception. He had 2.9 fantasy points, 14-25. Like, barely over 50%. Like, I know they wanted to move on from Bo. It was a money thing, and Mayer showed that he could play at those 300-yard games.
Yeah.
Granted, he only won one of them, but there is a dearth at that position on a lot of teams, and it's starting to rear its ugly head. And these teams are going to fall behind.
When I watch the games, I just see that the D lines are just way better.
So
way
much
more
better.
Talented. And I think maybe part of it is that teams are deciding to hide their Canadians on the offensive line. And I wonder if there's going to need to be a bit of a change in philosophy when you're building a team. What would you rather have? Of
Would
course,
you rather
want
have
strong lines.
Yes, you do want 4 Canadians, 3 really strong Canadians, and 1 you got to quote unquote hide.
Yeah.
Or do you want Matthew Betts?
Yeah.
I know what I want.
I would rather have 2 on the D line and then kind of build that way. And I don't like talking about the Canadians that are weaker on the offensive line or saying that they're inferior players. But I remember last year, it's like a Logan Furland comes from playing, for the Regina Thunder. And then the next year he's lining up against Armando Sewell and Willie Jefferson. And like,
have fun.
It's a guy he's probably going to need 4 or 5 years to adjust to playing that level of competition,
Right?
But
yeah, I think gone are the years of hiding. Guy, like, if you can't put 4 Canadians on an offensive line, you can only go 3. You got to find somebody else to go and play at another position, whether it's receiver. You got to be able to find those Brady Oliveras.
Yeah.
Right. The match you bet. You think how angry is Edmonton right now?
I don't know. He's a different guy in BC somehow.
Yeah.
He was not near that level of play in Edmonton.
No. Yeah, if you can find a Betts or a Mwamba or an Oliveira, those like Oliveira especially, the ratio busters. Talk about it all the time. Like if you have a guy that is the best at his position, Enoch Mwamba, arguably one of the best linebackers in the league, Canadian. Tunde and Delicate, Canadian. Is he not?
Yep.
Like Taylor Loeffler, greatest safety to ever play the game. Like these guys, like it just showed. Like you need it's the Canadians that win you great. Like the team with the best group of Canadians, it's usually the team that wins the Grey Cup because you're able to put Americans at spots that aren't traditionally American spots, like on the offensive line. They're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger. Like that's just the way it works, and you have those guys that play the non-traditional spots as a Canadian. It just makes your team so much stronger.
It's almost like
we're seeing it.
It's like you have to give up everything to make sure you have the strong left tackle and the strong right tackle, no matter who it is, no matter where they're from, pay them what they're worth, and then the rest of the things will fall into place. And
and maybe don't move them to the other side.
Yeah. And they had Bryant and Hardrick long before things started going well in Winnipeg, and they stuck the course.
Yep.
They stuck the course. Late in the half, and it's always these touchdowns going into the room at the break that just crush you. And Greg McCrae, I think, is going to find his way onto that Bomber roster and be one of those home run hitters and a danger to score from anywhere on the field, because they hit him with that 68-yard touchdown.
So close.
Man, almost the best touchdown of the year, but he is a burner. And they hit him for 68 yards. It's 11-11 at halftime, and that was the end of the success for the Stampeders, Ty.
You hate to see it. At the same time, it's really hard to make that. Like, the West is still substantially better than the Eastern Division right now, but the way that Edmonton and Calgary are trending, it's like, how much stronger can it? Like, teams are starting to fall off. I mean, Toronto seems to be the class of the East. Ottawa, who knows what's going to happen there? They got to go get somebody. But yeah, it's just one of these, like, the West has always been strong, and it's just Calgary having a futile second half is not something we're used to seeing. But I don't know, with what they have now, I don't know how how going forward, how often or how strange it will seem. Like, just the way things are going with Jake Mayer and that receiving core, they're just not on the same page.
Yeah, and they do have a very young team right now, like you said earlier, kind of a retooling. And I think they
could finish fourth and cross over, and people will be upset, but you still got a chance.
This coming week, it's going to say a lot. Riders and Stampeders, round 2, just a couple weeks removed from that overtime game at McMahon. The third quarter, Jake Mayer overthrows Mark and Michelle. Demario Houston back into the lineup. He has an interception. So far, he's got 3 interceptions and 3 forced fumbles on the season. And somehow start.
Matthew Betts is probably still the defensive player nominee.
So far. Late in the quarter, Zach Collaros ends up hitting Rasheed Bailey with the 9-yard touchdown there. And then Greg McCrae strikes again. Rene Paredes ends up missing the kick. Greg McCrae returns it 102 yards, but the Stampeder defense keeping their team in it. I mean, it's not very often where a drive starts at the 13 for the Bombers and it only ends in a field goal.
And a field goal.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of a kick in the nuts. But you got points, and the way Calgary had been playing that third quarter, it's how worried were they?
Yeah. There you go. Winnipeg
and then the next drive.
Yes, 9 minutes and 45 seconds. Like,
that's a whole segment on the radio.
I feel like that probably happens a few times a year in the NFL, but I'm looking at this stat sheet, 15 plays, 99 yards, and it ends in a field goal. I realize that, but that is
Perfect drive though. Like the only thing that isn't perfect about it is the field goal.
And look how much they were running, and Calgary just had no answers.
So with a minute 57 left, they go up 13.
Yeah.
But the anemic Calgary offense, it just felt like it wasn't one of those games where, you know, you can get the quick score, onside, quick score. There was never a threat of that. It never felt like that was going to happen.
Yeah, and they actually put Tommy Stevens in at that point. And look, the Calgary, the inexperience in the receiving core wasn't really helping out their quarterbacks. Odom's Dukes had a couple drops. All the respect in the world to Mark and Michelle, and maybe he was
it's a big ask in your first game back, not familiar.
He was probably just running some basic stuff.
He's never played with Jake Mayer before. Like,
yeah. So back to the drawing board for the Calgary Stampeders, losing by 2 scores to those Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Man,
are the Bombers back?
Are the Bombers back?
Yeah.
To dominating?
Yeah.
Ugh.
They're not dominating, but remember last week when we were a little worried?
Yeah. But last year they seemed beatable, and teams just couldn't do it.
Teams just rolled over.
I'd worry about them, but they play Ottawa this coming week, and then they play Edmonton. So what I'm looking ahead here. They play BC again August 3rd. That will be a matchup to watch, but I want to see a Winnipeg-Toronto game. Like, what are we going to find out there between the Bombers and the Argos? Because and that happens September 29th at IG Field. I know that's looking way ahead, but
it's so far ahead with injuries and everything. And
yeah,
who knows what? Yeah. So I don't even want to start. I don't even want to start it.
That is going to be well, right now that looks like a premier matchup, and maybe our Grey Cup rematch, because right now out of the West, it is a crapshoot, man. It is it is a crapshoot. Brady Oliveira, he did have 15 carries, 73 yards. The leading receiver for the team as well was Greg McCrae. 2 catches, 73
Both
yards.
running backs.
Yeah.
Real Matt Nichols performance from Zach Colaros.
Yeah, 20 of 28 for 231 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then the Stampeders, Dedrick Mills, 14 carries, 97 yards, 6.9 yards a carry.
Nice.
And somehow did not have the ball long enough. Their leading receiver was Reggie Bagleton, 4 catches and 51 yards there.
Can we talk about Dedrick Mills' receiving yards?
1 catch for -6.
All those are yards after the catch, by the way.
The yak is not very pretty there.
I've never seen a good looking yak.
Micah Awe, 10 tackles, probably playing a little too hot at the end of the game there.
I felt like he was taking some shots.
He was. Zach Colaros got sacked 3 times. But for the Bomber defense, it's just another one of those even performances, I would say, from them. No real dominant performers, no 10 tackle guys, but Adam Bighill had 7, and Willie Jefferson seems to be back to the player that
the 9-foot wingspan.
Yeah,
the 9-foot wingspan guy.
2 sacks in this one for big Willie Jefferson.
Did he not have a pass knockdown too?
It's not on the stat sheet, but I think he did deflect one anyway.
I thought so.
That I remember. Now, the next game, look, it's overshadowed by something that happened into it. The Hamilton Tiger Cats beat the Ottawa RedBlacks 21-13 here. Now, Hamilton did get off to a 9-0 lead here. It was 3 field goals. But then midway,
I thought Ottawa's defense was spectacular in the first 3 quarters.
They were good. Masoli makes his first start of the season, his first start in 17 games, and they were uneven. They weren't really able to get things going. Let's face it, Hamilton's defense was flying all over the place. But it's midway through the second quarter, right? Where Jeremiah Masoli just he looked to get out of the pocket and went down. Nobody touched him. It was one of those non-contact injuries.
Which is never good.
I know that the non-contact stuff is terrible. And Masoli had CFL fans, CFL players, everybody rooting for him to get back onto the field. But right now, it doesn't look good. And I hope we haven't seen the last of Jeremiah Masoli playing in the Canadian Football League. But man, the string of bad luck that has happened for him recently. I'm just looking. We go back to 2019. Would had a great start to that year. He
9-1.
Yeah, tears his ACL in week 7, and then that's when Dane Evans took over, led the Cats to the Grey Cup. They end up losing to the Bombers, but then 2020, we know what happened that year. Nothing. So he was able to heal and get back onto the field for 2021, but then ended up sort of splitting time with Dane Evans throughout that year. He starts
almost wins the Grey Cup.
Yeah, Evans starts the Grey Cup, gets hit, banged up. Masoli comes in, almost wins the game, but then signs in the offseason, February of 2022 with the Ottawa RedBlacks. 5th game of the season. That dirty hit, that incident from Garrett Marino and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. He gets knocked out for the rest of the year, misses 17 games, gets back in, non-contact injury, not even halfway into the game. A terrible string of luck for him, and it just sucks to see, man.
Yeah, we talked about the lack of starting quarterbacks right now. It's a huge blow to not only the RedBlacks and to Masoli, but to the league as well. Like, he's one of those guys where everybody was excited for the return, especially in Ottawa. They need something to get that fan base going again. They win last week with Tyree Adams, but he gets hurt.
Yeah.
Right, they just can't catch a break. Just the way Dunnigan was talking at halftime, it's deflating. Steve and I were watching, and I asked him that Masoli's career could legit be done if that's his Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's one of those things. Like it's hard to come back from. It's a long rehab. His one knee's already banged up. His other leg was banged up last year. It's at some point, and Eddie Steele even said you have to get your life sorted outside of football so that when it's over, you have something to slide into. Whether or not he does, I don't know, but I don't want it to be the end. But if he decides that you can't do this anymore, I completely understand. Like, your body can only go through so much. And once they start happening, it's hard to stop. Like, with your back, you're like, it screws up your legs. You're overcompensating. Like, my one knee, my other knee gets sore.
It affects everything, man.
Because I'm putting all the weight on one side. It's one of those things that just sucks all around, league, player, team, fans, everything. And yeah, like, even if he doesn't come back, he's still like thoughts, like wishing him speedy recovery, gets back to full health. Whether or not he plays football again, I think is back burner stuff right now. You just want him to be able to like, he's got kids. Yep. Like, you see these guys quitting sports at 30.
I know.
Like, I want to be able to walk. I want to have my faculties about me to take care of my family, and they go into something else. So, I don't know if he doesn't play, I could see him wanting to get involved front office and coaching wise, maybe, whether that's in the CFL or whether it's closer to home. I don't know, but yeah, it's brutal to see, and just brutal luck for the guy.
It was his return to Tim Hortons Field, and even while he was hurt,
taking pictures with both fan bases.
Yeah, man. So on the play he gets hurt, Ottawa ends up kicking a field goal on the next play. So it's 9-3 at that point. And moving along, I mean, Dustin Crum comes in. Now Ottawa's back to their fourth option. Like Nick Arbuckle's not even 100%, and I don't even know if they want to go towards him here.
Like, do you go to BC and ask about Dom Davis?
Now,
you thought I was going to say Dane.
Well, because Farhan Lalji said that
BC is not giving up Dane Evans,
and that Hamilton didn't want him in the East. Where if I'm Hamilton, I might want him in the East, honestly. But
you want to get picks or what?
You want to inflate those stats?
Yeah. But like, do they make that call about Dom Davis and bring him back?
Maybe. And I know there's all sorts of talk about McLeod Bethel Thompson. I don't know if he wants to come back. We don't know that. Yeah. So
Kyle Loxley getting traded again?
Maybe. Maybe. I've seen Russ Jackson a few times. He's looking pretty good. He might as well just put the pads on him.
Damon Allen?
See what happens.
Maybe Kerry Joseph could turn this franchise, or not
Henry
could turn this franchise around. Aaron Durant, is his elbow okay?
Now, here's the thing. Like, Dustin Crum actually gave them a shot to win this thing. He ended up putting them in the lead.
He fooled the cameraman.
Yeah.
It was such a good RPO.
It was 10-6 Ottawa late in the first half. And I mean, look, Crum, he's just kind of running for his life, and he's kind of just improvising on the go here, trying to keep the team in it here. He had himself 6 carries for 91 yards, so Hamilton was having trouble figuring it out early on.
Well, and I think a lot of that too is, he doesn't have a lot of reps, doesn't have a lot of time with the number ones. Not that all the number ones are even out there right now for Ottawa, but it's kind of a, if that first or second read isn't there, don't be waiting for something to open up. Just take off. If you're able to, just keep the play alive.
Yeah.
And it works for a bit until teams start to figure it out.
Right. Well, there we go. I mean, somehow the RedBlacks lose their starting quarterback and they go into halftime with a lead.
And I had Ottawa money line.
You did?
Yeah.
I wonder if you were maybe thinking about bringing that. They even extended their lead to start the second half with a field goal drive going up.
And then I looked
13-9.
And then I looked at what the live odds were for the Ticats.
What was it?
I got up to like plus 135.
And did
so
you?
I'm like, oh, they know they're coming back, so I'm not even touching it.
And you put some money down?
No.
Well,
should have. I also lost on the Jays yesterday with Kevin Gosman on the mound. They got no hit by 3 different pitchers.
Well, and then Matt Schultz ends up throwing an interception to Ty Cranston, and I'm thinking, are the Ticats going to lose to the RedBlacks? Well, a couple plays after that, Dustin Crum ends up throwing an interception. It was Ottawa's second interception of the game. I think this one kind of bounced around. Richard Leonard did the bulk of the work. Simone ended up being in the right place at the right time. And, that meant a lot to him to get a turnover and get that defense fired up, because on the very next play, they end up hitting McAllister for 64 yards. And then the Ticats take the lead, missing the extra point. Am I seeing that correctly? So it's 15-13 at that point, and they really didn't look back from that point forward.
It's not like they took it's not like they took off with it though either.
That's true. Yeah.
Like Ottawa's defense kept them in this game.
They did. They did.
Other than there was a play. Oh no, I'm thinking of a different game. They were down to, like you said, their fourth option, but the defense knew that, they have to make stops, and they did. And they only lost by 8. Like, it's not like Hamilton. Yeah, you say they didn't look back. They didn't allow any more points.
Yeah.
But I mean, Ottawa was never out of it and literally came down to the last play.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like the Ticats defense forced more turnovers. Richard Leonard ended up getting his interception later in the game, and
They switched fumble. They traded fumble recoveries there late in the third quarter.
Yeah, so the ball ended up becoming a bit of a hot potato here, and Dustin Crum, he's taking hits. Let's be real here.
He needs to learn how to slide.
Yeah, he does. He does. That Ticat defense was getting after him. The Ticat defense had Tim Hortons field rocking, and that ended up probably being the difference in the game there. But some bizarre clock management, I thought, from the Ticats at the end of the game.
At the end of the game, how did the Ticats take 3 time count violations at home? Punt, field goal, and on an offensive play.
Yeah. That's brutal.
Like that's they're lucky that it didn't come back to bite them. Like when you go from the 30, when you're kicking a 45-yard field goal and you move it back to 50, the numbers go drastically down, I'm sure.
Yeah.
50 is not easy.
No.
And like I legit thought they were going to punt that. Like that's a big ask. But yeah, and then the clock management, it's just, nothing made sense of what Hamilton was doing.
And Ottawa, they end up getting the ball back with about a minute to go. And Dustin Crum, he has a 22-yard run, 2 incomplete passes, but then he ends up, he completed one to Justin Hardy there. And then it comes right down to it where they are on the Hamilton 21 and Dustin Crum had all the space in the world.
I still think if he was left,
he would have
the blocker was there. I think, but it's hard to say where the defender would have came out of. But it just felt like he had room to the left. But you also from that camera angle, you don't see that corner.
Yeah,
cross. But that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, he went for it, 19-yard gain. He is tackled down, and the Ticats end up winning that game. So another instance where it wasn't pretty, but the Ticats win 21-13.
And a win they desperately needed.
Desperately needed. Now, they go into Edmonton, where, I don't know.
2 in a row is officially a streak, is it not?
It is. Look, I don't know what's going to happen in that game. The short week, traveling to Edmonton, but Edmonton finds ways to win. Are you putting it down on Hamilton right now?
Yeah. We don't even need to do Wednesday's show. Mind you, I'm not doing Wednesday's show. So
Right, exactly. You're not even going to show up, but we know that you're going to be picking the Hamilton Tiger Cats at Commonwealth Stadium.
I picked them last week in that game.
Matt Schultz, 19-26, 233 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Their leading receiver was Tyreek McAllister, and he had 1 catch, Ty. But Richie Sindani, 7 catches, 8 targets, 59 yards.
And that one he dropped.
Yeah, I know, in the end zone. Looks like they want to get him more involved into that offense because Ottawa really kept Tim White and Duke Williams a combined 50 yards in check in this game. James Butler even had 17 carries, but Ottawa's defense held him to 3.6 yards a carry.
Yeah, like Ottawa got a turnover on downs at one point. When you're holding, I mean, James Butler, it's a different James Butler than it was in BC. When you're holding any running back to under 4 yards a carry, that's a huge positive for your defense.
Justin Hardy ended up being the leading receiver for the RedBlacks, 7 catches, 58 yards, but they couldn't really run the ball either, other than with Dustin Crum, because DeMontre Tuggle had 11 carries for 30 yards, 2.7 yards a carry. He added 2 catches for 13 yards.
That's not a great showing.
No, it was an ugly one for the offenses in that game. Last game of the week, 35-19. The BC Lions beat the Montreal Alouettes And this one, I don't like to say it much. I don't like the crap on the officiating much. But there were a couple head-shaking calls in this one, Ty, especially early on, where Vernon Adams ends up throwing an interception to Marc-Antoine Dequoy, and I'm thinking, right where Vernon Adams left off against Toronto with the 6 interceptions early on against Montreal, an interception returned to the house, and there ended up being an illegal contact called on Dequoy on that one. It didn't look like he did anything, really.
No, it's one of those things where I don't know what the rule is exactly, but if that's called on the field, if it's not challenged, they can't pick it up, right? Well, they can, but like it can't be an eye in the sky saying there's nothing there.
And it was a scoring play, so
yeah, it's weird.
But
who was the crew?
Foxcroft was the coach, or was it Valesi?
Either way, it's no Andre.
Tom Valesi was the head ref. Dave Foxcroft was the replay official. And then where you're at as Jason Moss, it's like the first drive, you don't want to throw the challenge because at some point we don't even know what they're going to call.
Yeah, it's getting to that point where it changes. Those calls are judgment calls.
Yeah.
So you could think that it is a penalty, and the officials are like, "Well, no, there's nothing there. It's just hand fighting, whatever it is." It's just one of those things where if it's not blatant, like, and I hate that argument. Well, you don't want to end the game with a challenge flag in your back pocket. I also don't want to lose a timeout for nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I got a football game, I'm more worried about winning. Like, one play in the first quarter shouldn't kill you. Shouldn't.
Now, I do, and some people say you can't measure momentum, but that changes everything. Like if it starts with Montreal 6 or 7-0.
If they could measure the momentum once we start running and we can't stop.
Yeah.
Like there's got to be a way to measure that.
Yeah.
That's momentum.
Both teams had 10 penalties, a combined 228 yards in penalties in this game. And more than a few of them,
Travis. That's 2 football fields.
Yeah. And more than a few of them were actually, I thought, like, why are we throwing the flag here? Let's look at the returns in this one. Actually, Hergy Mayala in the first quarter holding on a return, a legal block on a return he had in the second quarter, and then in the fourth quarter he had a holding. He got called 3 times on special teams alone. We're looking here. BC ended up taking a holding in the first quarter. Actually, they had 2-on-1 play.
Yeah, of course he did.
Montreal 39 takes an illegal block on a return in the third quarter. Jeshrin Antwi takes a illegal block on a return in the third quarter. And then BC 32 takes a holding in the fourth quarter on a return. This was absolutely brutal. And did you notice what was happening in the
There's 8 penalties on returns.
And a lot, I don't know. I hate this, the whole thing.
There is no way there was 8 penalties on the returns.
No.
8 legit penalties.
And let's face it, sometimes, there's holding on almost every play on offense. It doesn't get called every play. But then the returns, let's just throw it.
Yeah, let's take all the excitement out and just kill the entire flow of the football game.
Yeah, even if it has nothing to do with
the play.
A few of them do, of course. Of course. And those,
but if it's on the other side of the field, don't really need to call it. He wasn't going to get to the guy.
So it was a frustrating game to watch at times. And it's like, what are we doing? All this stuff just getting called left and right. And then at the end of the game, in the fourth quarter, that pass interference getting called on BC. I got to be honest, man. I don't know what they saw there either. It just kind of looked like a makeup call from the first point of the game.
Yeah, but at some point, like a makeup call.
I know it's probably
shouldn't exist, but it's human nature, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you hear Tim Peel with a live mic last year for the NHL. Oh, I owed them one. It's like, shut the up. You just confirmed what everybody thought to be true.
Yeah. And look, I don't like talking about the officiating this much, because for the most part, but in this one, it just slowed the game down so much.
I don't know if it makes a difference as to who's winning or not. Like that big of an impact, but just the entertainment value, the game flow, like it just takes, like, when there's a penalty every other play, it feels like, why am I watching this?
In this one, the penalties probably didn't change the game all that much, because the BC Lions were getting after Cody Fajardo, and that just deja vu from last year. 7 quarterback sacks for the BC Lions in this one, including Matthew Betts having 2. Woody Barron had 1. David Menard had 1. Sione Tahima had 1. Ben Haladic had 1. Quincy Moget had a sack. They were all over Fajardo in this one, and I didn't think he played all that bad. 24 of 39 for 280 yards. He didn't turn the ball over.
Took care of the football.
He did, and I mean, that's a lot to ask, especially when you're under that kind of heat.
And with who is in the secondary for BC.
Yeah. So
feasting on mistakes.
He didn't play terrible, but he hit on Julian Grant 49 yards on 5 catches. Courtney Davis had a beautiful catch, 2 catches, 50 yards, and Austin Mack had himself another 72 yards in this one. But look at the rushing attempts for number 31 in the Montreal Alouettes backfield, and it feels like we're broken records. It feels like we're parrots repeating every episode. But William Stanback gets 6 carries, Ty.
What's the point of paying him all that money and saying, oh, we've got one of the best running backs in the league, if you're not going to use him? Trade him, get something. Cody Fajardo had more rush attempts.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Six carries, 17 yards, 2.8. It's only 6 carries. Like, let him get into the game. It was 7-7 at one point. There was no reason to abandon the run.
Well, they
were still in it in the third and fourth quarter.
They were, yep.
Like, it makes no sense.
It makes Matthew Betts' job real easy.
Yep. Just pin your ears back. They ran the ball 15 times. 15.
Now, I don't know if this game looks completely different if that interception to start the game ends up standing. But Vernon Adams Jr., he has 80% completion percentage, 20 of 25, 283 yards, and the touchdown. And that touchdown throw he made to Javon Katoy was 2 defenders in the area, and it was picture perfect.
If that's not put where it was, it's incomplete or picked. Like, it's too bad thing. There's only 3 things that happen when you throw a football, and 2 of them are real bad.
Yep. Now, Sean Shivers making his CFL debut for the BC Lions. He has himself 14 carries, 63 yards, and a touchdown. He also had a 68-yard catch, 2 for 73. So he had 136 yards of offense in his CFL debut. He's a small guy, but he's fast. He's physical. He took a big hit in this one.
They had to put him into concussion protocol.
Yeah, he ends up coming back in, and man, that guy ran hard, and they've got 2 great running backs, it appears, in BC.
And that takes so much pressure off Vernon Adams Jr. Like, he threw 6 picks last week.
Yeah.
And if you can trust these guys with the football, and they're not going to turn it over, and they're going to get positive yards and give you that second and 4 yards, completely manageable. And it sets you up for success later on in the game. Like you said, for a small guy running as physical as he does, it's nice. I shouldn't say nice to see because you don't see it, just because you don't see it that often. But he's not avoiding contact. He's not like running east-west trying to get the extra 2 yards when he could just go down and take 5 yards instead of 6.
The difference in this game was the end of the second quarter when things got real crazy. Ty, there ends up being a blocked punt that the Alouettes block. And then on the ensuing drive for the Alouettes, David Cote has his field goal blocked by Woody Barron.
What a call by Dustin Nielsen, too.
It was great. What is
so
happening?
Good. He's so good.
Edwards Cooper ends up catching it in the air, taking it to the house. And then, I don't know, did you see, this was at the, I think, the end of the first half. What happened with Jeshurun Antwi?
No, I missed that. It was moving day for me, so I was in and out of the game.
He has the ball in open field. He's running, and it's 2nd and 16. He puts the ball, like, he looks like he's considering kicking it.
I heard them talking about it, and then he missed.
Well, he didn't even really attempt to kick. He put it on the ground, and then he picked it up. Nobody knows what happened.
No, and Glenn Cedars, like, was he maybe trying to fumble it, thinking it was a change of possession?
Honestly, that's what I was like, what's going on?
Cover it and get first down. Like, yeah, it was weird. Super weird.
So there was some weird stuff going on in this game as well, because not long after that, BC punts it to Chandler Worthy, and I don't know if he lost it in the sun, but it hits him in the face.
And for people who are going to call you out on that, the roof was open.
It was. And
we're in a dome, a controlled environment.
No idea where it went.
Yeah,
because he looked behind him, and it's 10 yards in front of him. So the Lions end up recovering that, and they get a field goal, and they take a lead 24-10. So there was a lot of crazy stuff going on this game.
And well, that's what you get when you put CFL games on a Sunday.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what happened. I mean, Montreal was in it for the most part, but they can't protect Cody Fajardo. And when that happens, and you've got a defense,
you can't allow
like
7
Lions,
sacks.
No, exactly. So, and you're not running the ball. It just kind of seems like the same issues that were happening in Saskatchewan in 2022.
100%.
For the BC Lions, Keon Hatcher, he ended up having himself a nice game. He had 68 yards. So, man, we're just getting robbed left and right, man. 6 catches, 7 targets on this one. Javon Katoy, 55 yards. And then for the Alouettes, it is what
Austin
it is.
Mack.
Yep. Those fumbles, those tackles for loss, the blocks, all of that, and those penalties every second play ended up costing them the game in Vancouver. What are we looking at for the fantasy this week? I don't even want to look at my team. I had Dominic Rives.
Are you saying so did I? He was my captain.
Yeah. my team was ugly. We'll just put it that way, man.
I am in the middle of trying. Well, I didn't get my settings changed, so I'm trying to open up the spreadsheets here, and then because my screens aren't actually side by side, but that's the way they're set up, like for the viewing.
Oh yeah, okay.
So I'm moving everything in the wrong spot. Okay, quarterbacks. So Fajardo, 22.9.
Number 1.
That's what I have. I had to double check it too.
It's the rushing.
Yeah, it's 100% the rushing. Taylor Cornelius, 18.8. Vernon Adams, 17.5. Kalaro, 17.2. Dustin Crum, 5th at 17.1. Like Trevor Harris at 15, but the website says 14.3. So I don't know what's going on.
Now you might as well just pick the cheapest quarterback.
Yeah, Shivers 21.6, McAllister 17.3. So 2 guys making their debut this week.
Yeah, who had them?
Dedrick Mills 16.1, and then Oliveira McRae tied at 16, and Olette had 14.4. And as for wide receivers, Picton was number 1 at 17.9, Javon Katoy at 15.5, Austin Mack at 15.2, Rasheed Bailey at 14, Richard Sindani at 12.9, and Sindani could have had a real big game. Sindani could have been in 20s had he made that catch.
It seems like the Stars were kind of shut down in week 5.
Mhm. I don't get it.
That is a week of CFL football.
It was Thursday was a debacle. Friday, I went to bed once it was over.
Yeah.
Last night I had tuna for the first time. It wasn't bad. I liked it.
Wow.
Never had it before. Tuna steaks.
Brazilian
and then
Thai.
today I had to move into camp and got to watch maybe 10 minutes of that football game. So a complete disaster of the last 4 days, and I still have that.
Oh, wow. This coming week, a little bit of a different week 6 because there's a doubleheader on Saturday. There's no
and I'll probably
Sunday
miss well, I'll probably get I'll be able to watch the late game for sure.
All right. Perfect.
It seems weekends out here ghost towns right now.
Okay. Week
no
6
here
is on the way. It seems like there's big happenings, big news happening every week, but that's every season in the Canadian Football League. You can subscribe to Two and Out in your favorite podcatcher, comment and subscribe on YouTube as well. And you can support the show on Patreon. I'll be back with a week 6 preview. Brazilian Ty won't, but he'll be here for a week 6 recap as he is in the great province of BC making that
there is
Shane O'Mac
literally there is literally a forest fire 15 minutes from camp.
Oh.
Yeah, I watched the helicopter pick water up today and then fly over.
Yeah, the smoke has returned with a vengeance to central Alberta as well. So hope you're safe wherever you're listening to the show, and we'll talk to you soon to get you ready for week 6.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.